Hi guys, huge disclaimer before I start. I do not believe that there is actually an overarching story in the Covered in Discontent album. The vast majority of people probably clicked on this video about to completely destroy me. I simply thought it was a neat video idea, so please don't take anything I say seriously. I just wanted to see how many logical leaps I can make in one video. So, guess who's talking about Chonny Jash again? Today, I wanted to try and find a cohesive story in the Covered in Discontent album. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Covered in Discontent is an album composed of 12 songs by various artists, if you don't include the 2 bonus unreleased songs, Fly Me to the Moon and Dad 3. They are actually some of Chonny's earliest works, not including the video game or meme covers. They were released in 2023 on streaming services under the album title Covered in Discontent. Unlike Chonny's Charming Chaos Compendium, this album does not have an overarching storyline. Or does it? Well, no, it doesn't. But today, I intend to grasp at straws, make huge logical leaps, and stitch together a story of skeletons and discrimination. So again, huge disclaimer. I do not actually believe there is an overarching story, I just thought this video idea was funny. So, how do I even begin? Well, the album begins with The Moss. And I see this as if a narrator is beginning to tell us, the audience, a tale. The song mentions famous children's stories and nursery rhymes. It's as if Chonny is preparing to tell an old story of how the world that the album is set in came to be the way it is. In the final verse, the line, "Well, legend has it that the world once knew a whole palette of lovely blues and greens," displays 2 things. The world that they live in sees things in only black and white, good and evil, and secondly, that the narrator has never known it any other way. This is the world that he grew up in. Despite this, he doesn't really show what side he is on, clearly preferring a world where everyone could live in harmony. So at this point, you're probably wondering, where's the skeleton discrimination? And while it doesn't seem like it yet, I promise it'll all make sense later. The next song on the album is KK Cruisin', and yet again, this song suspiciously fits in with the storyline. This song begins with the lyrics, "Choose a side, prepare to fight. There's no end in sight. Why can't we just get along tonight?" We can assume these sides are the skeletons and the humans. Right now it might seem weird to randomly bring up skeletons, but trust me, if you know the album, you know why skeletons are being brought up. We can also tell that once again, the narrator doesn't agree with this, wishing that everyone could just get along. He encourages the listener to give up the fight and enjoy their lives, having fun with their friends and family, rather than focusing on arguing. The song ends with the narrator stating that he's happy with the life he chose, showing that he's confident in the way he feels about the sides. Hokum All Ye Faithful is the 3rd song of the album, and if I break character for a second, I'll admit that I have no idea how I can connect this to the story, so this is probably going to be short. Hokum All Ye Faithful speaks about how the people, humans, of this world are too invested in their own beliefs to actually realize how their actions are affecting others. The themes of religion and beliefs are a recurring theme throughout this album, thus displaying the ongoing focus the humans have on it. There's also something to be said about how the humans' religion, which we can assume to be Christianity due to the nature of the songs, could already have preconceived issues with skeletons. Slutterel Gump brings a new and more hopeful perspective to the album. It seems it's the older generations that feel prejudiced towards the skeletons. It seems the narrator is trying to make a change, criticizing the way the older generations act towards the skeletons and saying how they seem to refuse to change and seem to be afraid of action. I specifically like the lines, "Yeah, it's like that. We play the right track. You say you'll fight back, but you remain confined and stagnant." This shows yet again how confident the narrator is in his beliefs about how the older generations refuse to change their views on the skeletons. Okay, the 5th song is where things actually start to make sense in terms of the whole skeleton narrative. The Man with the Skeleton Arms gives the audience some backstory in terms of what led to the skeletons being discriminated against. The story tells the tale of 2 men, the narrator, presumably a different narrator from the rest of the album, because this is set like 10 years ago, and the views of that narrator don't really fit with the other one. So for the purpose of this, we'll just name him Bill, a random name, and the second man, Flanagan, as they have a deadly encounter with a 3rd man, who we'll get into in a second. The story goes that Bill and Flanagan were out camping one day. They started a fire to cook food, and I guess keep them warm as well. But the wind ended up spreading the fire across the land. Well, 2 days later, The fire had died out, so they went to see if any of the animals trapped in the fire had been cooked enough to eat, which, why don't they care that they just burned down a forest? Like, that, I've always had beef with this song. Like, I like this song, but why do they not care that they just burned down a forest? They suddenly hear a man yelling for help and see that he's badly burned. They each grab a hand to help him up, but instead of pulling him up, the burned flesh is ripped off his bones, leaving his arms as only bones, hence the man with the skeleton arms. The skeleton man was super pissed, and I mean, who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be? They've ripped off his arms! So he swears his revenge, saying that he'll do the exact same thing they did to him, but in reverse, meaning that flesh is going to come off their bodies except for their arms. You know, he's going to dip them in boiling fat, technically, is how he says he's going to do it. This is where I believe the prejudice against the skeletons begins. The man was threatening and aggressive, and so well known that even the people of the town, specifically the bartender, know to warn Bill and Flanagan when the skeleton man is approaching. The actions of one rightfully pissed off man resulted in the humans being scared of all skeletons, presumably thinking, oh, this man was fine until he became part skeleton, only then was he aggressive, and thus the skeleton discrimination began. Restless Heart is the 6th song of the album and shows the beginning of what I like to call the love arc. The narrator either now or in the past falls in love with the skeleton. The whole song is about how his heart feels restless, almost as if he's dying because he desperately wants to confess to this skeleton girl how he feels, even though he knows that a human and a skeleton being together would probably cause some issues in terms of acceptance from others. This then leads into Pocket, the 7th song. The narrator decides he'll tell the skeleton, saying, got a song inside, so don't hide it, don't lock it. Another important line is, you may think that you're better off in your cage, sacrificing your life to ensure you'll never be met with outrage. He could either be talking to himself, hyping himself up to go talk to this girl, saying that he shouldn't be scared of asking her out just because she's a skeleton. Or it could be seen as him telling her that if she feels the same way, she shouldn't just reject him because they're different, and only reject them if she genuinely just does not want to be with him. Alone With My Thoughts is another song that I didn't really have a cohesive idea for, so something rejection, maybe felt like he was being led on by the girl, or maybe they began their relationship and soon after the girl starts acting distant, making him feel so cold and alone. One thing is for sure, the relationship is not going well. The next song, Scatman's World, directly addresses the topic of discrimination, calling out how bullshit it is to judge people on appearances rather than their personality and values. Specifically, I really like the line, but how can someone win if winning means someone else loses? Basically asking, how could someone do something for their own gain if it means the other people are negatively affected? This song shows that the people of this world need to pay more attention to proper issues in the world, such as discrimination or even pollution, rather than focusing on the way someone looks, e.g. if they're a skeleton or not. She Only Loves Me When I'm There brings the narrative back to the narrator's life. At this point, the skeleton girl is done with him, only paying any sort of attention to him when he is actually in her area. This has begun negatively impacting the narrator to the point where he keeps repeating that he doesn't want to live like this anymore, and this relationship is really taking a toll on him mentally. Next, Spooky Scary Skeletons brings the narrative back to the topic of skeletons. The first 2 verses paint the narrative that skeletons are things to be feared. They are dangerous and aggressive beings. The chorus, however, directly speaks to the skeletons, saying, "We're so sorry, skeletons, you're so misunderstood, you only want to socialize, but they don't think we should." This specific line takes some thought. At first I thought when it said we, the narrator was implying that he is a skeleton, but now I believe we just refers to both the skeletons and the humans. And the they in they don't think we should is most likely anyone who believes skeletons are bad. From Slutter or Gump, we can assume the vast majority of these people are the older generations. We can also see that at this point there is a clear sort of, for lack of a better phrase, power dynamic between the humans and skeletons. The final line, "'Cause spooky scary skeletons truly do mean well, so I can't help but wonder why we've doomed them all to hell," shows that it is most definitely the humans having issues with the skeletons and is not reciprocated the other way around. As mentioned before, the skeletons only want to socialize, but because of the actions of one rightfully pissed off man, humans generalize the feelings associated with the men with the skeleton arms to the whole skeleton population, thus demonizing them and dooming them all to hell. As I said earlier, religion is another theme of this album. The final song is called Hallelujah. This song focuses heavily on religion. And before I start talking about the whole narrative, I want to make one thing clear, just a personal opinion about the song. This song, in my opinion, is not about a dislike for religion as a concept. It's a dislike for people who use their religion as an excuse or only when it's convenient. How does this apply to the narrative? Well, I believe that this final song is meant to address the humans. A human talking to the humans, confronting them about how they only seem to follow their views when it's convenient for them. One of my personal favourite parts of the song is the following.
You don't really care for him now, do ya? Yeah, all you want is an excuse so you can rationalize the evil things you'll do. So when all is done and through, you can spew hallelujah.
In my opinion, they are just such powerful lines, speaking about how, in the context of the story, the people don't really care for him being God. All they want is an excuse to explain the evil things they do, discriminating against the skeletons. And with that, the album comes to an end. And yes, I know Fly Me to the Moon and Dad 3 technically are on the album, but there is no way in hell I can make them fit into the story. So, to summarize. Throughout Covered in Discontent, a narrator tells us the tale of a world with two kinds, skeletons and humans. After one man became a skeleton and went on a rampage, this only solidified the humans' already somewhat negative views of the skeletons, especially in relation to their religion. It also tells the tale of two lovers, presumably a man and a skeleton woman, who begin a relationship but end it soon after due to issues within their relationship. These issues are presumably outside pressure from both sides disagreeing with their relationship, causing the skeleton woman to grow distant. Later, the narrative is brought back one final time to the narrator first contemplating on why humans hate skeletons before finally directly addressing them, calling them out on how they only use their religion as an excuse to continue discriminating against the skeletons. And with that, the story ends. So, is there actually a storyline behind Covered in Discontent? No. No, there is not, and there never will be. But was it loads of fun grasping at straws and overlooking huge details in order to make this album fit into this little idea I had? Hell yeah, it was. Going into making this, I actually had no idea I was going to include the part about the lover's storyline, but one of my friends in my maths class, the class at which I wrote the majority of this script in, gave me the idea, so credit to her. Overall, I'm glad I was able to string together, in my opinion, a somewhat cohesive storyline. Okay, so if I'm honest, I had been making this video for like months. Probably thought of it around December last year, and I've just been sort of sitting on the idea, letting it simmer. The only thing that really reminded me to this is just the fact that people brought up how much Chonny brings up skeletons in his music. This was specifically just after the release of You Sound Like Louis Burdett, and it reminded me how I had this video idea where I spew some bullshit about skeleton discrimination. And so even though it's been a while since I decided to focus on this topic, I felt like it was a good idea going through with it. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I'm trying to upload every 2 weeks, so sometimes it'll be videos like this, and sometimes it'll be editing stuff, or just whatever I feel like, really. So once again, thanks for watching. I've been Toby, and I'll see you in the next video.